Campaign to remain. I want to remain. I think it's in our country's interests. But I am a Democrat, and after we lost the referendum, I woke up the next morning and thought, right, I'm a public servant, I've got to do as I'm told, but the type of way in which we leave the European Union, because I tell you what, no deal was definitely not on the ballot paper. The way that we leave the Union, there are many ways you leave the European Union. The most important thing to do is to look after jobs and the economy, so people don't lose their jobs.
And for 3 years, both ways, and say we'll respect the referendum, and then say actually I want to.
Hang on, that's what it takes on to the next bit, which is for 3 years. Labour desperately tried to leave, but we tried to leave in such a way that we would look after jobs and the economy. Because it didn't have a customs union in it, because it didn't have being close to a single market, and it didn't pass our 6 tests. We spent weeks and weeks negotiating with you guys, trying to explain to you that actually our way of leaving the European Union would work. Now, I believe, the centre ground has been burnt away. We have an extreme Prime Minister who's going for no deal. There is no centre ground anymore. So, in my view, it's a long time since we had the referendum. I want us to go back to the public and say, did you vote for this?
So
because if you voted for this, fine, but if you didn't, then let's remain. And I continue to believe, as I have always said, and I've always been truthful about it, I'm not pretending that I think it's in our interest to leave the European Union, but I will do what I'm told. And we did try for 3 years to leave, but frankly, we have been in opposition, and now we have to work out what we do next.
No, Richard, wait 1 second, because I can imagine that people at home are thinking, oh my God, these politicians just shouting at each other, talking over each other, I can't make sense of it, and they're all just being horribly rude to each other. Do you know what? Let's just take a breath a minute. And let's try and understand, we're in a situation, and we've had an extraordinary week, thank you, an extraordinary week in Westminster. And a lot of people are thinking, what on earth is going to happen next? Where are we going to go from here? How are we going to get out of this? So let's go to our next question, which is from Rachel McCluskey.
If you're so sure the public don't want a no deal, why not allow a vote on the 15th?
That's a very good question.
So, Emily, what is going to happen? Because I certainly, and I'm following this very closely, am unsure about what the Labour position is.
Yeah.
Assuming that the bill goes through the Lords and becomes law, are you going to support Boris Johnson calling for an election on Monday?
No, we're not going to support Boris Johnson. Because what we want to do more than anything else, listen, in our hearts, in our bones, we want a general election. Of course we do.
Why don't you vote for one?
But at the moment, the emergency is that we have a dishonest Prime Minister who will use every means possible to get us out of the European Union without a deal. And that will lead to a lack of medicines. It will lead to queues around the block for tests. Listen, this is government papers that I'm quoting. It's government papers that we're quoting. And a lack of medicines. I raised the issue of lack of medicines, and since I raised it in Parliament a few days ago, I have been inundated with people telling me that they have had conversations with their doctors about concerns about if we leave the European Union without a deal, that there will be blockages, there will be problems in the ports, that there will be 48-hour delays, and people will not get their
presumably
rights.
You think you'll win, and then take charge.
Why wouldn't you do that?
So the first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that we stop no deal. The offer that Boris Johnson made us, that we should have a general election, was under the Fixed Term Parliament Act, which, to get technical, is under Clause 3 would allow the Prime Minister to set the date. Now, guess what? Because we don't trust the Prime Minister, the opposition parties working together are saying, I'm sorry, Prime Minister, but we're not going to just give you a blank cheque. We're not just going to go,
okay,
yeah,
so
all right, we'll have a general election.
When do you want the election to happen?
Because you know what he will do. He'll have the election on the 1st of November.
So, no, when do you want this election to happen then?
So I think that we should have a general election when we can be certain that we will not be leaving the European Union without a deal.
And when is that?
And the difficulty is...
No, when is that?
Well...
Because you're going to be asked on Monday.
Yeah, OK.
So when do you want this election? What date are we talking about?
So what we need...
Of course.
The truth is,
so when we have...
The truth is, she doesn't want to be told because she knows that she's going to lose.
Can we let Emily answer the question?
Well, she's had a
when
good...
do you want it?
Is it the Emily Thornbury
That's all right.
show?
It
certainly isn't, but I think people want to know the answer to this question.
I'm sure you know better than I do what I think.
I think he does.
Okay, you just let her off the hook.
Generally, oppositions want an election whenever possible because they think they can win. You don't
not
want an
at a
election
time
because
of national emergency.
You know that you've betrayed 5 million
talk.
Labour voters who are not going to vote for you. they're not going to vote for you in this election, and you will lose.
No.
That's the reality.
No.
You're scared.
No, absolutely not. Listen, we want to stop the food banks. We want to
Okay,
stop
and
letters from...
we've heard all that.
We do.
And
we want to have a general election.
We've heard all that.
But we have to stop no deal first.
This is the second big U-turn. I said that on 2017 you said Labour accepts the referendum result, which you clearly haven't, and want to overturn. The second big U-turn is that for every week I can remember the last 2 years, you've demanded a general election. Yeah. Corbyn is on video, on YouTube, saying, I want a general election. And when he was offered the chance, here you can have a chance to have a general election, he ran away.
Because we know that you are using it as a distraction,
and the reason why,
and you will do damage to our country in the meantime.
But if you all talk over each other, I'm just going to go to the audience.
But I want to pick up what the lady in the audience said. She said that the reason why you're avoiding an election is because you think you'll lose.
No, absolutely.
And that's exactly what people believe.